Imagine walking into work, dressed simply, quiet, unnoticed. Now imagine being mocked, laughed at, ordered around as if you were nothing. But what if the very person they humiliated was the one who secretly owned everything? In this story, every insult, every cruel laugh is about to come crashing down in a single shocking moment. The woman they thought powerless is about to reveal a truth so devastating it will silence the entire company. Stay with this story until the end, because the moment she stands, the world around her will never look the same again. The office was buzzing with chatter. Fluorescent lights hummed above, washing the room in a pale glow. At the far corner, a woman sat quietly, her hands folded neatly on the desk. Her dress was plain, the color faded from countless washes. Some coworkers glanced at her and smirked. Whispers floated through the air like smoke. "Look at her shoes," one voice sneered. "They look older than this building," another chuckled. The woman lowered her gaze, pretending not to hear. Her chest felt tight, each breath shallow as laughter echoed too close. The scent of coffee and cheap perfume swirled together, making her stomach twist. A stapler clattered onto her desk, tossed without care. "Make copies of this," the manager barked, not meeting her eyes. She picked up the papers, her fingers trembling. The smooth texture of the pages felt cold against her skin. Her ears burned as a group of interns snickered nearby. The air was heavy, thick with disdain she could almost taste. But beneath her quiet exterior, something stirred. Her heart pounded, not with shame but with control. Every mocking word was being noted, weighed, and stored. Her gaze flickered toward the glass doors of the conference room. Inside, the directors were preparing for a meeting. Her name was written at the top of the agenda. The walls seemed to close in as the clock ticked louder. The faint vibration of her phone against the desk pulled her back. A single message glowed on the screen. "We are ready for your introduction, madam." Her lips curled into the smallest trace of a smile. The room around her still buzzed with jokes at her expense, yet the ground beneath their laughter was about to break. She rose slowly, chair legs scraping against the floor, conversations stumbled, eyes flicking toward her, curious but unconcerned. She held the stack of papers close, almost like a shield. Her footsteps echoed as she crossed the office, each step steady. Deliberate, the scent of ink and toner drifted from the copy machines. Sharp in her nose, someone muttered, "Where does she think she is going?" Another voice snorted, probably lost again. She reached the glass doors, her reflection faintly staring back. For a moment, she saw herself as they saw her, ordinary, forgettable, small. Then the doors swung open, and the reflection fractured into light. The directors turned, their polished shoes clicking against the floor as they stood. "Madam," one of them said warmly, bowing his head slightly. The title cut through the air like a blade. Her coworkers froze mid-sentence, their laughter still hanging in the air, unfinished. She stepped inside, her senses sharpened by the silence behind her. The polished wood table gleamed under the ceiling. Lights, a faint scent of leather and expensive cologne, filled the room. The chair at the head of the table waited, empty. Expectant, she placed the papers down with care, the sound crisp and final. Her pulse slowed, steady now, every beat filled with certainty. The woman who had been their target only moments ago lifted her chin. The real meeting was about to begin. Gasps rippled through the office outside, faint but sharp. Through the glass, faces pressed close, eyes wide with disbelief. She did not look at them. She lowered herself into the head chair. The leather firm beneath her palms, the directors settled around her, their movements respectful, cautious. The silence outside grew heavier, broken only by the whir of the air conditioner. Her plain dress seemed almost regal under the spotlight above. She clasped her hands together, fingers no longer trembling. The manager who had tossed papers at her stood, frozen in the doorway. Sweat glistened on his brow, his mouth half open, words lost. Her gaze lifted, steady and unflinching, pinning him in place. The taste of fear filled the room now, sharp and metallic. Her voice, calm but cutting. "Slipped through the air, please. Close the door. We are beginning." The sound of it struck harder than any shout. The manager's hand shook as he obeyed. Pulling the door shut, the click of the latch echoed like a verdict. All eyes remained on her. The quiet pressing down like stone, and only then did the weight of her true presence reveal itself. Asterisk. The manager's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. His face had drained of color. His posture shrinking outside, whispers swelled into frantic murmurs. A tide of confusion. Some clutched their phones, recording. Desperate to capture the moment, the woman leaned back slightly, her chair creaking with authority. Her eyes moved slowly across the directors. Then, to the trembling man by the wall. The air thickened. Every sound amplified: the tick of the clock, the faint hum of lights, the shallow breaths of those waiting. Her hands unfolded, resting lightly on the polished table. Yet they commanded more power than any raised voice. Earlier she said softly, her words deliberate, "I was invisible to you." The director nearest her shifted uncomfortably, his pen tapping once before falling still. Her gaze locked onto the manager, unrelenting. "You treated me as less than human, but I am not here for revenge." The manager blinked, his chest rising fast, desperate for air. She leaned forward, her reflection gleaming in the table's surface. "I am here to decide who belongs in this company, and who does not." The weight of her words settled like a storm cloud, pressing into every corner of the room, and for the first time, the office that once mocked her trembled in silence. Asterisk. No one dared move. The glass walls of the conference room felt like a stage, trapping every spectator in awe and dread. Her steady breath was the only rhythm, each inhale measured, each exhale a reminder of her control. The fluorescent lights above flickered once, casting harsh shadows across the faces around her. The directors leaned forward, attentive, wary, as though the balance of their future depended on each syllable she spoke. Her eyes slid toward the window where interns had once laughed. Now their faces were pale, pressed close to the glass, their laughter smothered by fear. The woman's voice cut through the tension, low and unhurried. "A company," she said, "is not measured by profits alone, but by how it treats the unseen." A cough broke the silence, nervous and brittle. The manager lowered his head, his hands clasping and unclasping, desperate for escape. But the door was closed, and the room belonged to her. She tapped the table gently, once, twice, the sound echoing like a judge's gavel. "I saw everything," she continued, her tone steady as stone. "Every smirk, every insult, every dismissal of worth." Her words were not shouted, yet they struck with the weight of thunder. The manager's knees buckled, his back pressing against the wall for support, and outside, the office that once mocked her held its collective breath. Asterisk. Her gaze lingered on the trembling man, then shifted to the glass wall, where dozens of stunned faces stared back. The air felt charged, heavy, as if even the ceiling lights dared not flicker again. She rose from her chair, the leather sighing as she stood tall. Her footsteps carried her to the edge of the room, each strike against the floor deliberate, final. She placed a hand on the cool glass, separating her from the crowd beyond. Their eyes darted, some away in shame, others locked on her with raw disbelief. The faint hum of the building's ventilation seemed louder now, filling the void of words unsaid. Her reflection merged with theirs, a reminder of who they had dismissed. She turned back slowly, her presence filling the space more completely than any title could. The manager's breathing grew ragged, his collar damp with sweat. "Every company inherits the spirit of its leaders," she said, her voice carrying to every corner. "If cruelty is allowed to root here, it will poison everything we build." One of the directors shifted uncomfortably, his cufflink glinting in the sterile light. Her eyes swept over him, then the others, freezing them in place. "You will choose today what kind of company this will become." The silence that followed was so deep it pressed against the skin. A silence where every heartbeat felt exposed. The woman remained standing, her presence towering though her voice stayed calm. Outside, no one moved, as if the entire office had turned to stone. The clock on the wall ticked louder, each second dragging the moment deeper. Her hand brushed across the polished table, fingertips grazing the cold surface. You measured me by my dress, my silence, my lack of importance, she said. Her words cracked through the air like glass under pressure. The manager's lips parted, but no sound emerged. His throat was dry, his tongue heavy. His excuses lost before birth. One director cleared his throat. The sound nervous, apologetic. She raised a single hand, and the noise stopped instantly. The weight of command rested in that simple gesture. Her eyes narrowed, sharp and unblinking, cutting into the room. Today will decide everything, she said, her tone slow and deliberate. Not only for this company, but for each of you who stood silent while cruelty thrived. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, but the room itself felt darker. A bead of sweat rolled down the manager's temple. Sliding to his collar, the woman's gaze locked onto him once more. Steady and merciless. Now, she said, her voice like steel. Let us begin with truth. Asterisk, the word hung in the air. Heavier than any accusation, truth, it settled over the room like dust. Impossible to brush away. The manager's chest rose and fell too quickly. His breath loud in the stillness. His fingers twitched at his sides, as if reaching for excuses that would never come. The directors shifted in their seats, suits creasing under the strain of unease. Her eyes scanned them one by one, leaving no refuge from her gaze. You thought silence protected you? She said, her voice measured, deliberate. But silence is guilt, dressed in softer clothing. A murmur rippled outside the glass wall, faint, uneasy, like wind through dry leaves. Her hand pressed flat against the table, the grain firm beneath her skin. The manager tried to speak, his voice cracking, thin and fragile. I did not know, he began. Her stare cut through him, cold and precise. You knew enough, she answered. The fluorescent light gleamed across her eyes. Sharp as polished steel, the manager's words withered, his mouth closing in defeat. All that remained was the suffocating quiet, and the truth she demanded. Asterisk, she let the silence stretch, pressing on every breath in the room. Then she drew in one steady inhale and released it slowly. The sound deliberate, controlled. Her eyes softened, but her voice carried the same unshakable weight. This company will not thrive on fear, she said. It will grow on respect, on dignity, and on the worth of every person who walks through these doors. The directors exchanged glances, unease giving way to reluctant nods. The interns outside no longer whispered. They simply stared, wide-eyed and motionless. The manager lowered his gaze, shoulders collapsing inward, the power he once wielded stripped away. She stepped back toward the head chair, resting her hand on its leather frame. For those who choose to stay, she continued, you will learn that leadership is not about power over others, but responsibility to them. The words landed like anchors, steadying the storm she had unleashed at last. She lowered herself into the chair again, calm and immovable, the seat now a throne she had earned. The meeting began. But the company would never be the same, and the woman once mocked as simple was remembered. From that day on, as the owner who commanded silence with truth,